The morning sun climbed slowly over the red hills as Elias Crow stood alone at the edge of his ranch, boots planted in dust that had known too many goodbyes and not enough mercy. His land was wide, unforgiving, and honest like the man himself. Years of drought, loss, and silence had shaped him into something solid and unbending. Yet deep inside, a quiet ache remained. Elias had never planned to take a bride, especially not one sent by rumor and rail, whispered about in towns as if she were more legend than woman. They called her the giant bride, a woman of towering height and presence, someone no man dared claim. But fate, like the West, never asked permission. When the wagon finally arrived, its wheels groaning like they carried more than wood and iron, Elias felt his breath catch. She stepped down slowly, the earth seeming to acknowledge her weight, her strength, her reality. Clara Bellamont stood taller than most men in the county, shoulders straight, eyes sharp with a mix of fear and defiance. She took in the ranch in one sweeping glance, the endless fields, the distant mountains, the weathered house that looked like it had stood its ground against time itself. Her voice broke the silence, low and awed. "This is the biggest I've seen." She gasped, not just the land, but the life laid bare before her. Elias hesitated, not because he doubted her strength, but because he feared his own. Something about her presence unsettled him. Cracked open doors he'd boarded shut years ago. Clara had not come chasing comfort. She had come running from a world that refused to make space for her. In towns, she was stared at. In homes, she was feared. Men either mocked her size or tried to conquer it. None ever saw her heart. But standing there, watching Elias remove his hat not in ownership but in respect, she felt something shift. He did not measure her. He did not shrink. He simply saw her. That alone was enough to make her chest tighten. Days passed slowly, filled with shared labor and cautious distance. They spoke little at first. Words felt heavy, dangerous. Yet the land forced cooperation. Fences needed mending. Horses needed calming. Storms needed weathering. Clara worked harder than any hand Elias had ever hired, lifting beams, taming wild stock, enduring the sun without complaint. The ranch hands watched in stunned silence, their disbelief slowly turning into respect. Elias watched too, torn between admiration and fear, not of her size but of how quickly she was becoming essential. One evening, a storm rolled in without warning, the sky splitting open like an old wound. Thunder shook the house as rain hammered the roof. A fence collapsed near the north field, and without thinking, Clara grabbed her coat and ran into the chaos. Elias followed, shouting her name into the wind. When he found her struggling against the storm, mud clinging to her boots, lightning flashing behind her like fire, something inside him snapped, not in anger, but in realization. He grabbed her arm, steady and firm, grounding her. In that moment, he didn't pull her back because she was fragile. He did it because no one should face a storm alone. Back inside, soaked and breathless, silence filled the space between them. The storm raged on, but something quieter, deeper, took its place. Clara finally spoke, her voice trembling not with fear, but honesty. "All my life, I've been told I'm too much, too big, too loud, too different." Elias looked at her then, not as a rancher, not as a man bound by habit, but as someone finally willing to choose. He did something unexpected. He told her the truth, about his losses, about the wife he buried years ago, about the fear of opening his life again, only to lose it. His voice didn't shake when he finished. It felt like setting down a burden he'd carried too long. From that night on, everything changed. Not quickly, not easily, but surely. They learned each other's silences. Clara discovered that Elias listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words mattered. Elias learned that Clara's strength wasn't just in her body, but in her patience, her loyalty, her quiet kindness toward animals and strangers alike. The townspeople slowly changed too. What began as gossip turned into grudging respect, then admiration. Together, they rebuilt fences, healed land, and faced a world that once doubted them. The day Elias finally took Clara's hand in public, he did not do it to prove anything. He did it because he no longer wanted to hide. The West stretched endlessly before them, uncertain and wild. But for the first time, it felt like home. Clara squeezed his hand, smiling softly. She no longer felt like she took up too much space. She felt like she belonged exactly where she stood. And as the sun set over the ranch, painting the sky in gold and fire, Elias realized that the biggest thing he had ever seen was not her size, or the land, or the storm, but the courage it took to choose love again. If you enjoyed this powerful Wild West romance, don't forget to subscribe to Wild West Diaries. More unforgettable stories of courage, love, and destiny are waiting for you.